This is a screencast on how I grade student papers. I have two papers here. One is from student B and the other will be from student A. So let's see the difference in them. This is student A, and this is for the narrative essay, the same one that you need to write as the first essay in English 9. So student B has a nice introduction. It starts out with a dramatic moment. Put your things away, the teacher said. It's almost time to go. So that was a nice, strong introduction. So this student will get full points for that introduction. In the second paragraph, we see a few problems. First of all, we have a comma splice. A comma splice is a major sentence structure error. It means that the student did not stop a sentence where it needed a period and instead used a comma and ran into the next sentence. But my parents weren't thinking of the consequences. They only thought about the benefits. Now, when we speak, we might run a sentence on into the other. But when you write, you have to punctuate correctly, and that needed a period there based on the grammar of the sentence. If you are unsure about comma splices, there is a lesson on comma splices in lesson 3. There's lots of extra activity. You can Google comma splice, and there are lots of exercises in the internet. And of course, there's a misspelling here. The word should be thought, not though. Look at this error. The student wrote, "On my first of school." Now, I believe that the student knew that he or she should have written "on my first day of school," but I think this is a problem of proofreading. The student did not proofread this carefully. You need to proofread very slowly and very carefully to be sure you don't make errors like these. I put in the missing word there. You see that I insert in blue where there's a problem. Here's another comma splice. I was right. That's a complete sentence. It needed a period here. Spanish has always helped me keep a strong connection with my family. Two complete sentences, you cannot separate them with just a comma. That is two major sentence structure errors, and that's a serious problem. Here it says, the student wrote, "I think that the culture involved in Spanish has a lot to do, and then again, it is my first language." You can see that's just messed up. And this is, I inserted what the student meant to write but didn't write. You have to include it. This is your paper, it's not mine. You need to edit and correct your own paper. Let's look at this one. We have a verb error here. With that, I mean that he would always brought materials, and I didn't even catch that one. This should be buy. He would always buy materials like carts with names and photos, so that way we can learn the means of the world. Awkward phrasing here, but this is a major verb error. We can learn the ways of the world. It's probably what the student meant to write. After a modal, such as would and can, you need base form of the verb. So would buy, can learn. Native English speakers do this automatically. ESL learners need to learn this. And it was probably taught to you in the very first ESL class that you took that you need to constantly review, so to make sure that you learn this error. By the way, if you make errors like this, the way to learn to write correctly is to write and pronounce the correct version 20 to 50 times in your head until it becomes natural, that you would never write would bought or can learned. You would always write or say would buy, can learn. You need to repeat over and over until it's natural to you. Let's look at this. If we have a wording error, the student wrote, "I am really thankful with all my teachers because they gave me as many support they can." Now that's probably an ESL error. Support is a non-count noun. It should be, they gave me lots of support. And I wrote the correct version here. I am grateful with my parents for gave me another opportunity. For giving me is again another wording or verb error there. Now, some students say, I saw in my Rate Your Professors, that I live to catch your errors and correct them. Believe me, I do not. I'm so much happier when I have an essay without any problems, where the student has proofread and doesn't have these kinds of problems. It makes my life much easier. I don't have to mark it. But if I don't mark it, what's the point of you writing the essay? The point of this class is so that you can improve your language. So in order to improve, you have to know what's correct. So that's why I grade like I do. So this student got full points for the introduction. The introduction was good, and the format was all good. But sentence structure, there were 2 comma splice errors. So the student only got 10 points for sentence structure. There were a couple of verb errors, as I went over before, so that student only got 10 points for verb usage. And there were a couple of errors in wording choice, and so that student got only 10 there. So, the student ended up getting a 50 out of 80 points. The student lost 30 points. Part of it, I think, if the student just had proofread, could have improved the score. And also, make sure you understand sentence structure, comma splices, run-ons, fragments, etc., so you don't get dinged there. Now, writing an essay is a learning process. Nobody's perfect, including myself. I make errors as well. Everybody makes errors. But the point of writing these essays is so that the student says, oh my gosh, I had 2 comma splices. I want to learn how to correct those. And so the student can go over comma splices until the student learns it for the next essay. And here I write final comments at the end of the essay. I say please review comma splices in Learning Unit 3, and also you can Google these terms and find lots of exercises on comma splices. Sentence structure is so important in English 9. You really have to have a good grasp for your final exam and to go on to English 110. So if you have these sentence structure problems, make sure you learn them right away, how to correct them. I also have some information for the student. Now this is for an ESL student, which I believe the student was. Base form after modal, and it explains that concept of putting a base form after a modal. Again, a native English speaker does this automatically, so a native English speaker would not have this problem. But if you are an ESL student, you just need to repeat over and over 50 times, 100 times, however many times it takes to learn this concept. Now, this student got 50 out of 80, which isn't terrible, but it isn't as great as it could be. I want to also show you a student who did very well and got a different score. So here's student A. Starts out with a Spanish quote, so pretty good introduction, and she explains that Spanish quote as well. And, I have a few suggestions in here of what to do. But here is her essay. A small apostrophe error. Notice the punctuation with quotations is all well done. We have the right page length. And I don't have a lot of comments up here. So this student got full points for a good introduction, full points for format, full points for sentence structure. I didn't find one single sentence structure error in the essay. Full points for verb usage. There was not one verb error in the paper. There was the tiny error of apostrophe, but that's really no big deal. I gave the student full points for the last category, which is kind of a catch-all category. And my final comments there. The student got 80 out of 80. The student got all of the points associated with this essay. You can too, but you have to go over that grading rubric and make sure that you follow all of those instructions and you proofread very, very carefully. And you apply what you have learned in this class to your writing. I need to know that not only have you finished all the comma splice exercises, but that you can apply this to your own writing and that you've learned from those exercises.